Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be discussing the best books of 2022. If you've been on my channel for a while, for the past 2 years, I always have more than 10 best books because I always like 5 stars are the best books, you know? That's not the case this year, and usually in previous years I've done it so I just like combine series together so that way I can kind of squeeze more top 10 in. So I'm like, oh, you know, book like 1 and 4 on the list are technically part of the same series. We'll just combine them into number 1 so that way we can squeeze another one up, you know? That's always been the way I've worked. But this year I have 8 5-star reads and multiple of them are in the same series. If I actually did it the way I usually did and combined series together, I would have about 4 4-stars on the list. And like, while I enjoyed those 4 stars, they're not 5 stars for a reason, because they're not favorites. I'm gonna just give some honorable mentions this year to all of Caitlin Doty's books. I read all 3 of them this year. This one was a birthday gift from Christy. This one I think I bought myself, and then this one I bought with a Waterstones voucher, I think. I could be wrong though. And I really enjoyed all of these, but I didn't write them because I didn't really know how to. I'm not very good at writing nonfiction, but you will see one nonfiction actually on this list. Because like when I finished that I was just like blown away, so like I was like, okay, it's gonna be a 5-star. Whereas with these ones I was like, these are really good and they're really good nonfictions, but like I don't really know how to write nonfiction, but I did really enjoy them, so like I would recommend all of them. They're all about death. So now onto my 4.5 star, and that is going to be The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. So this is a bunch of short stories from the David Bad world. If you love the David Bad trilogy and you love the characters, then you're gonna enjoy this. Like, that is the only way to describe it, and that is exactly the case with me. I love that series, and the stories are told in chronological order. So like there are some set before the original trilogy, so we get to learn about, you know, maybe our villains and their dynamics and all of that. Deleted chapters are chapters told from a different point of view, and we go all the way up until the end of the series, and then I think the last 2 are set afterwards, and I really love the 2 of those. Those are like so perfect, and it kind of like, it was nice to like know where the characters go, and I just love the David Bad world. It's just brilliant. You do need to have read the entire series if you want to read the short stories. So but I did. I really loved them. Number 8, we have Network Effect by Martha Wells. Yeah, this is the full-length novel. Oh yeah, I read Murderbot twice this year. But both times I read them like back to back to back to back. So like they all kind of blur together, if I'm being 100% honest. But some are only 4 stars. And the first time I read them, I gave every single one of them 4 stars, but I think it was maybe September, I could not stop thinking about Murderbot, and so I went and I reread them all. And I bumped some up to 5 stars, including Network Effect. So Network Effect is the 5th book in the Murderbot Diary series, and so the first 4 follow kind of one arc, I would say, and so then this one is actually the first full-length novel. I don't know if there's going to be more full-length novels. I wouldn't be mad about it. So this kind of splits up the series, I guess. So obviously the whole first thing has kind of been put to rest, but like there's a couple of elements and, you know, worries that people have. And so we follow a good few characters from the first book, and the first and I think maybe the 4th. And we also get a character from the 2nd. Yes. And the banter between those 2 is great. I love them. I guess I'm gonna just tell you right now, more Murderbot books are going to appear, but I'll just tell you the synopsis for all Murderbot books right now. And so Murderbot follows a Murderbot, and he, in the very first book, he is out on a survey with his team of scientists from a planet called Preservation. And what they don't know is that Murderbot has kind of gone rogue. He's hacked his governor module, which basically controls him, and he's still kind of doing his job, which they don't know. Like, he's not doing a very good job of it. He also has time watching soap operas, but he's still kind of doing his job. He doesn't really know what he wants to do, and so, but then something weird starts happening, and he has to kind of decide whether or not he wants to help these people. And yeah, it's just, I love him. I love Murderbot so much. Yeah, I love this entire series. As I said, so this is the 5th one, and it is the full-length novel, and even then it is not that long. I did enjoy a longer format because we definitely really got, like, we got a whole plot in this one, whereas like the other ones, like, we got plot, but like, you know, for the first 4, you know, it all connected. So like, whereas this one, like, it's all by itself. So while I'm at it, I might as well tell you my 7th favorite book. Am I on 7? Yeah, my 7th favorite book, which is All Systems Red, which is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries. And I just, yeah, I think the first one is definitely one of the strongest. Just the introduction to Murderbot is great. The characters that are in that book, they do appear a couple of more times in the entire series, and so they're definitely the characters you grow the most attached to compared to other ones, and I think they're the ones that Martha Wells has put the most development into, even within the first book. All of them, their interactions, their friendships that they kind of grow into, you know, their mistrust for him, all of that, I just love it all so much. And you know, all of the action and adventure, I love that too. And I will say, while I'm here, the audiobooks are incredible. They're just such brilliant audiobooks. I totally recommend them. And we're on to number 6. Oh, I didn't bring number 6 over. Okay, I'm too lazy to go up and get it. But that's Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. Oh, I still have not finished this series because I know it will devastate me. I'm not ready for it. But this is the first book in the Fitz and Fool trilogy, which is the final trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings. So at the very start of this entire world, we follow Fitz, and he is a young boy, and he is brought to the keep because his maternal grandfather no longer wants to take care of him, and he is the illegitimate son of the prince in waiting. He's then brought to Buckkeep, and when he arrives, he finds out that his father has basically fled to the countryside. And so he's left with Burke, who is the stable master, and he is raised by him for the first few years of his life, and then eventually the king kind of decides to make use of Fitz, trains him up to be the assassin. And this is, I think, maybe 50 years later. It's kind of unclear because of a certain magic in this world, aging can kind of be different. So while Fitz is in his 50s, maybe 60s, I think he's maybe in his 50s early in the book, and then this does follow at least, I'd say, 10 years, if not more. So like by the end he's probably in his 60s, but he actually doesn't look that age or act that age. So it's a bit complicated because you're like, how old is he? But I love Fitz. I love Fitz. So this book, it really was just like a starting point. We see what he's been doing for the past however many years. We develop the relationship. We get to see like the developed relationships between him and all of the people around him. And we also get a second perspective in here who I adore. And it's just a lot of build up. Like, we do pretty early on, we get introduced to kind of what's happening, but it's very slow to build, which is the case with a lot of Robin Hobb. And a lot of this book, I think, focuses heavily on how his childhood affects him even now. And like, we did get that a bit in the second Fitz trilogy, but not even as much, I think, because I think he was so, I mean, yes, he was like kind of annoyed that he was getting dragged back into all of this again in the second series, but he kind of understood why at some points, because he still had that really strong sense of duty. And we see now how annoyed he is by it and just how kind of paranoid it has made him. And it's really sad to see because like he's been through a lot, and the fact that like things that happen in the second book of the series still affect him so greatly so many years later, and like nobody kind of acknowledges that. Like, you know, they're just like, yeah, that's what you were supposed to do though. And he's like, yeah, but it sucked. You really do feel for him because like he's very much in his head a lot, which has always been the case with him, but like even more in this, like just how much kind of it plays and how much fear he has now, even now. And yeah, it's just really interesting and I love him. is basically the bottom line. And I did love how this book ended. Kind of the, like, as I said, it was a bit of a slow build up. I love the other character that we got their perspective from, and the way this book ended. And, you know, we got a character that we've seen before multiple times, and I love them. And I was so excited to see where the second book goes. But as I said, I'm so afraid of how the series will go. And I do know that we get characters from like the second and third, not the second and the fourth series. And so like, I'm like, okay, I have to read this. But like also, I'm so afraid. Now I'm gonna finish the series this year, probably pretty early in the year, hopefully. And I can already tell you right now, Assassin's Fate is probably going to be my favourite book of the year. On to number 5, that's going to be Exit Strategy by Martha Wells. This is the 4th book in the Murderbot Diary series. This is the only one I own physically. I do want to collect them all physically because I love them so much. This is the conclusion to like the first kind of arc of Murderbot. So as I said, the first 4 books, we follow Murderbot as he is trying to find out all he can nearly about this company called Grey Chris. We kind of get introduced to them back in the first book, and we constantly see them mentioned in the second and the third. And in this one, he realizes that his people need him, basically. I can't really add much more to this than I've already said, except for the fact I really love this, and this is my favorite Murderbot book so far. And we are on to number 4, and number 4 is a bit of a surprise. I'm about to say it's a bit of a surprising one, but I don't know why it's surprising to me. And that's Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I don't know why this is surprising to me, because the year I read Lost Boy, I think that was my second favorite book of the year. Like, that was like back in 2018, 2019, so like I did not have a booktube channel, but I remember like I was on Instagram and I made a list and I was like, okay, these are my top 10. And I'm pretty sure Lost Boy was like number 2. I think Radio Silence was number 1. So like, I'm not sure why I'm surprised that I love this book, because I loved another book by this author, but I am surprised for some reason. I gave this a 5 stars. So this is a horror book, which is maybe why I'm a little surprised. And so we follow Mattie, and she can't remember a time before her and her husband lived on in this cabin on this wood. And one day there are some weird disturbances, some weird, like some traps have gone off, there are weird footprints, and she tells her husband this, and she kind of realizes that maybe they're not alone. And then a group of people come around, and she is absolutely not supposed to interact with other people, and so, but they are kind of looking for this creature. This is such a good book, because it is both a like monster horror and a like psychological horror, because it's like, oh, the horror of man and the horror of an actual monster, which is worse. That's what made this book so amazing. I love Christina Henry's writing. She really knows how to build an atmosphere. She really knows how to make me attached to characters. And she also has a really quick and easy writing style. Like, I flew through this book and I really, really enjoyed it. And I also, another positive about this is you genuinely didn't know who or who she wouldn't kill off. Like, you didn't know who was safe or how hurt they would be or all of this. And I really enjoyed that. You really are rooting for Mattie to like get out of this situation and to survive. And I really loved her. I loved the backstory, the slow reveal of it, just the horror of it. Like, it was so well done. It was so tense. And as I said, like top tier atmosphere. And then like also the monstrous thing, like real creepy. And I had such a good time with this. I really loved it. I feel like right now would be a good time to ask you, can you guess my top 3 books of the year? I should have asked earlier, could you guess any of the books that would make my top 10? But I didn't. So I'll ask now. Like, pause and tell me what you think my top 3 are. Because I think yeah, you might be able to guess them. I've talked like in live shows about some of these books. And if you know me as a person, you might be able to guess. but let's continue on. So book number 3 of the year is going to be Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is not surprising to anyone. I love V.E. Schwab. I love V.E. Schwab. I have a whole shelf that I'm running out of space on. I literally can't get another V.E. Schwab book. Except for the fact I have like 4 different V.E. Schwab books that I have also already bought because I'm kind of collecting them all multiple times. So yeah, whoops. So this is Gallant. This is her newest release. She released it in March, I think. I have a vlog for this, and I also have a vlog, and also in that vlog is a River of Silver. I forgot to mention that earlier, so I'll leave it linked down below. I go into spoilers, but it's time-stamped, so you don't have to worry. And I love this book. I really did. It's not my top V Schwab by any means. A Darker Shade of Magic is right there. I do think it's a really solid read, and I don't even think that this is going to be like a new like all-time favorite book, but it is still definitely like top 3 of the year. So in this we follow Olivia, and she goes to this like school, and she has no family and all of that. And then she gets a letter from her uncle, and he says that she is welcome to come to Gallant, and she goes because she has nowhere else to go. And when she arrives, her cousin is there and is like, yeah, he's dead and I don't want you here. And she quickly learns that you should never go out after the dark and you should never cross the wall. I just really loved it. I loved the writing. I loved the atmosphere. It is such a quick read. Like I read it in 2 days, but honestly you could have read it in 1 if I really tried. I liked Olivia as a character. I loved her cousin as well. Kind of the development of that like friendship, cousinship. I really can't tell you a lot without spoiling it, because like the reasons I really liked it were kind of spoilery. It's maybe not the most plot heavy book. Like I was intrigued and I like couldn't stop reading and I wanted to know what was going on in this world, and maybe it was like sorted a little too easily for my liking, but I liked the rest of the book so much that I didn't really mind. And as I said, I will leave my vlog down below because I feel like I put my thoughts better in that than I did right here. But I did enjoy this and I gave it 5 stars, and I love V Schwab. Number 2 is gonna be The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. A little honorable mention to The Name of All Things, because this was number 11 on the list. But like it was a really high 4-star, but didn't quite get to the 5 because it kind of like, it took a little while for me to get into it. Another book that took me a little while to get into it was The Memory of Souls, considering I started it in February and it was the last book I finished of the year. Embarrassing. I am embarrassing. So how do I even describe this? So this series is very complicated. We follow Kieran, and he has grown up in a brothel basically, and his father is a minstrel, and he is also kind of learning to be that, except he's also a thief. And one day he breaks into the wrong house and there's like a demon there, and everything changes from then on. He then gets claimed as like the lost son of this royal family, and then there are all these different people in the world kind of trying to get Kieran on their side, because Kieran might be destined to destroy the empire. Obviously a big part of these books is that they are told like as the characters are like telling the story. So in the first book, Kieran is like in prison and he's telling the story, and then there is this kind of creature that's like, oh no, that's not where the story starts, and starts telling his story from a different moment in time. The second book follows a different story, but we do get a bit of Kieran in there, which I liked because I love Kieran. And this one, we get back to kind of mostly Kieran's story, but we get a lot of other perspectives as well. This book. So I restarted it because I was like, okay, I read like 60 pages and I have forgotten them, obviously. And so I started again and I read it in like 3-4 days. Like I flew through this. I didn't know what it was. Obviously I was right when I stopped reading it because it was not the right time for me to read it, but oh my god, I just flew through it. I was so engaged the entire time. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I just loved it so much. I love Kieran so much. There is a possible relationship that is going to happen in here, and because like things started happening and I was like, oh my god, it's happening. And I was freaking out just a little. And it is so complicated. I love it so much. I just love this series so freaking much, because like that's the thing, is I literally cannot tell you anything about this because it is so complicated. And it is like, I would just spoil you. I love the characters. I love the relationships that are being built. I will say there was actually there's a character in here that in the first book, basically the person who does the footnotes in the first and this book, I I never thought that I would, I didn't actually think that he's going to be like a big part of the series, but yeah, he is, and I actually really enjoy his character as well. I love all the characters. Like, some of them are terrible people, and yet even then you're just still like, you still kind of love them. You're like, you're terrible, I love you. And like, even the bad guy, like, maybe he makes some points. Like, yeah, he makes some points sometimes. This book really showed that, is like, okay, he wants to do this, and obviously doing this thing would be bad for like so many people, but also what these people want to do are also bad. And like, they're also like not on the right side. And so it's like, it's very complicated, because you're like, everyone is like trying to pull Kieran and our other characters in like different directions, and like all of it, like everyone has their own agenda basically. How this book ended, I'm going to be reading The House of Always like as soon as possible. I think, see, I have reading plans for this month, so I probably won't be able to read it this month. Also, I have so many big books I need to read this month, because I need to read An Echo of All Things, and I'm also like halfway through Mask of Mirrors, so I need to like, so I don't think I'll be able to read another huge book on top of those two, but like hopefully next month I hope I can squeeze in House of Always, because how this book ended, oh my god. And then one last book, my favorite book of the year. This book is extremely surprising too, was extremely surprising to me at the time, and I still kind of can't believe that this is going to be my favorite book of the year, and that is going to be The Anthem Scene Reviewed by John Green. I loved this book. I can't tell you much about it, because like, it was just, maybe it was like the right time that I read it, I don't know, but I loved it. This is a non-fiction book written by John Green. You know, John Green, you know, Turtles All the Way Down, The Fault in Our Stars, Paper Towns, that John Green. But this is a non-fiction, and it is just a collection of essays. He used to do a podcast, I don't think he does it anymore, called Anthem Scene Reviewed, where he would just take really random topics and give them a rating from 1 to 5. Then he decided to make a book out of it. He ranks things like staff, football, and countries that he has visited. And it's just the most random collection of things. It's a really interesting mix of like learning actually about these random things, as well as like just him having his own spin on it. So whether it is from his own personal life or just, I don't know, like life in general. It is just so beautiful. The thing I always point out is there is a chapter in here about baseball, and it is about the fact that sometimes baseball players and tennis players, they just stop being able to like serve or hit the ball basically, or do the throw right, and it's all in their head, but like they just can't get it right anymore. I don't know anything about baseball, and yet at the end of that chapter I had tears in my eyes, because just the way he wrote it was so beautiful, and it was so ridiculous, like, but I just loved it. And I'm waiting for the paperback to come out, which I think is coming out in like March, and I'm going to absolutely buy a copy as soon as I can and have it on my shelves, because I need to have it on my shelf, because it is definitely like one of my favorite books of all time now. And I just love this. So that was my favorite book of the year, and I don't even own it. So I need to buy it. Tell me, have you read any of these? Do you also love them? You better. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.